especially when it comes to this one out here. His name is Bandit. And that one I've been trying to tame. That one's never going to be tamed, unfortunately. Same thing with that one. His sister is Iffy. E1's in, of course, but he's an outdoor cat. Alright, so now I'm going to get this set up inside the base for Kongou. And I'm currently clearing off the table so I can actually work. The only problem is I got a Liz in her Liz box. So hopefully I can still work on the table without utterly disturbing my poor little cat. That way so she can be nice and content in her little box. I think she's content right now. Alright, so the first thing I have to build is the plate that the car will attach to. And that's what this little white piece is. I made it the thickness of the inner walls of the plate I made right here initially for my hobby grade car, which is that right over there. So now what I gotta do is I gotta figure out where exactly the middle of that and this is, that way so I can have everything properly aligned, and then actually attach that to this piece of foam, and then build some side walls. That way so the side walls can actually grip these little areas here, and I also gotta fill in this little gap right here with some extra foam so it actually seals properly. So I'll come back when I think I have a to where I think I'm at a part to where I can update. And apparently Liz doesn't want to be in her Liz box, so she just wants to do other things. Isn't that right, Liz? Or maybe she wants to be in her Liz box. I don't know. I can never understand these cats. All right, and here is the design I came up with. Simply put, just like this. Popsicle sticks in the back, popsicle sticks in the front, and the core mass or whatever it is basically a part of really holding everything together. So all I gotta do now is figure out how many sheets of either foam board or how many pieces of popsicle sticks I need placed over on top of this for the proper thickness. So I'm gonna go and do that right now. And quick update. Turns out I didn't place this thing in properly because, as you can tell, it's just slightly off center. So I had to go in there and trim it and cut it and make sure it's actually properly centered. So I had to trim a lot down so I can make sure it's actually properly going to be driving it straight. Alright, so I'm sitting here. Alright, so now the next thing for me to do is to wire up both transmissions inside this little car here to the main motor for this little truck right here, or this little whatever the heck this thing's called. You know, the problem is the battery. I ran it dead last night and I forgot to charge it. So I'm going to let that battery charge up completely, and that's going to take like an hour or so. But at least I can give you an idea of what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have both of them working in tandem with each other. And to make it so I can easily remove this thing and whatnot, what I'm going to use is this little barrel plug connector that's from an old cat water thing, like that one right there. I'm going to have the female end embedded somewhere right in here. That way so I can just easily take this cable that's going to be on this car at all times, and I can just route it like so and connect it. And if I want to remove this thing for any old reason, I can easily just pop this off and remove this without any problem. And I'm going to do the same thing to the inside here. I'm going to add some type of little connector that I can just easily pop this hatch over or pop this little door open and just quickly pull out and quickly disconnect that little piece that I need disconnected so I can remove this part here. I know it's convoluted and whatnot. I'm having two power systems in here to lug her around, but unfortunately I really can't find anything hobby grade that's reasonably priced to actually do the job I want. I saw a few RC car transmissions, but to get that to work, I gotta have an axle system and all that stuff. And unfortunately, I don't know where to actually get all those parts. I know where I can get the transmission that'll have the proper gearing. I'll be able to even shift it to like a lower gear so it can actually have more torque than power and speed and whatnot. But like I said, I have no idea where to get that stuff. So I'm gonna let that thing fully charge up, and then I'm gonna get all this thing wired up. Once I make sure everything's wired up and running properly, then I'm gonna go outside and spray paint this whole thing matte black so it actually looks like something. So I'll come back in about an hour or so. Alright, so I'm still getting all this figured out. I decided to remove the reinforcements I had right here that were pushing down on the front car here, because it seems like I was having a bit of a hard time running around. But in doing so, I made it to where this thing barely even steers. So now I have to go back in there and reinforce everything, have a little bit of downforce applied to this so this thing can actually steer itself. But one of the reasons why I decided to choose the tracked vehicle over anything else is because at my local conventions, these tracks will be able to grip into the carpet. That basically meaning I would require less throttle to actually get this thing to start to moving, or to get this thing to move and whatnot. But of course, if I run it on this stuff here, it's going to require quite a bit of throttle because there's really no way for the tracks to actually grip. And since most of the conventions I go to are carpeted in some form or another, the treads, like I said, will be able to actually grip into the carpeting and whatnot. So what I gotta do now is I gotta make sure I got this thing properly applying the right amount of pressure to the front so it can steer right. So I'm gonna go and figure that out and then come back and finish everything else up. And now I'm encountering another problem. These little power distributors, which is this little black thing right here that I'm trying to point at, it's getting a bit too hot. This thing's only really meant to run this motor here and the little steering motor. It's not meant to run a grand total of 3 freaking motors at once. It can be done, but I have to either get myself those little heat sinks I was talking about, or figure out a way to use the little ESC from my hobby grade car right here. I know if I use this thing, I have proper cooling on it so it won't overheat. But I have to worry about the servo system. When it comes to the servo, all I need is just a positive and negative. That way so I can get it to steer right and left. So probably what I'll end up doing is if I end up using this, is I'll also end up just using this servo in there. That way so the actual steering part of the car can still steer. Actually, I might even integrate this into the actual steering system. That might be a possibility. No, I don't think it will be possible due to the fact I've just gone and just modified this thing in such a way. I might be able to get it to work, but if this thing blows out, I'm going to somehow figure out how to incorporate that. I'm also going to do a video separate to all this, just to have for so I can have something to post to a New Bright and ask for questions on their end. See if they might have something that might be a bit more capable for what I need, or if they can even point me to something else I could actually use to get the job done. When it comes to actually controlling all 3-4 motors at once. I mean, I'm thinking I might just end up using the parts from this hobby grade car. I do have the brushless motor and ESC coming in, so I can get away with actually stealing parts off that car because I have new parts coming in. Alright, I just put everything together temporarily. There's still no steering, but when I give it throttle, it functions completely as it should. And I disconnected the main motors. Or it's shorted. No, just disconnected one of the motors. Alright, so it does work. So what I gotta do now is I need to go out into the into the garage and see if I can find some PC headers and use that to give this thing steering, and then I'll come back. Alright, I don't have my heat gun with me, but you gotta believe me, I just got done running this thing around out front, and I really didn't give it much power, but even then, when I brought it back in, I could tell the thing was hot. I can smell it and I can sense it, that this board here, it's still warm to the touch. Oh, well, guess you finally made it inside the house, didn't you, Mr. Bandit? So, I'm at a point now to where I'm just going to pop this board out, and I'm just going to try the ESC from my RC car. Again, I got a brushless setup coming in the mail on this little China boat. So, I mean, why not just try it now when this car is kind of out of commission in the first place? So I'm going to see what happens. This thing also has its own servo lead right here, a sense wire, plus and minus. And I also have this thing here, which is actually meant for the servo that this thing comes with. But I could also add in just a standard servo too, so I can actually go for like a higher capacity, like a Metal Gear servo or something like that if I want to upgrade the servo to this thing, so I'm not forced to use the servo system that they have, which is a real smart move on their part. So all I gotta do now is just wire up the motor sections and see if this thing can actually work properly. As in, I can give throttle and this thing just doesn't cut itself off because of some current issue or something like that. Alright, so the original idea did not work. I thought I could just give it power and it'll steer itself, but that's not the case. So I decided to actually take apart the steering box that New Bright has for this car. And I managed to gouge out a nice little hole for myself. That's because I'm also going to incorporate the servo from the car. Now, luckily, at this point, I might as well just get a whole new servo and everything else for this thing. So I just gotta make sure I keep the screws for everything organized and whatnot. So all I need to do now is just hot glue this servo into place and get this little knob a little bit more thinner so it can actually fit in the hole I drilled, so this thing can actually steer that way, so the thing can actually be steered right. And to make sure that this thing is the proper size, is I got some old clippers here, and I'm just gonna clip the sides until it fits properly. Alright, and if I tell it to turn, it turns. So all I gotta do now is I gotta properly mount this servo into the inside here. And luckily they'll also allow me to mount a little top panel on, because the little top panel that goes on here actually holds these little parts down. That way, so it actually properly sits right. So I'm going to go get everything else properly seated and hot glue everything in like it should be. Alright, I just got done driving this thing around outside and basically transplanting the parts from my hobby grade to this toy grade. It gives me full control over everything. It miraculously works, which just dumbfounds me. Especially the steering system for this thing. Now the servo itself does move around inside the body, which is what I want. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and secure it a bit more that way, so it doesn't just wiggle itself loose. Granted, when I'm at my convention, I'll be bringing my hot glue gun with me, so if this thing decides to fail, I can repair it on the spot. Alright, so I think this will be the final update for this particular video, because I still have a ways to go apparently. So I'm out here now, it's fairly windy, and I'm testing the new modifications. So far, everything seems to function as it should. I still need to give a little bit of throttle to get it to turn, throttle, or just get it to go, but once it goes, it goes. Granted, I really can't steer with my controller, trying to steer it so you guys can turn. The major major problem I was having with this was the ESC giving out because power limits and whatnot. But now with the new modifications that I'm using, the little cheap Doom buggy, well not cheap, but it's a $50 Doom buggy. I'm using the little $20 treads I got. I can full throttle this thing without any problems, and it doesn't cut off. And the nice thing is that it actually doesn't heat up. I mean, it heats up, yes, but it's heating up normally. This is a hobby grade car, so I expect the ESC and whatnot to actually be warm. Hence why it has those little heat vents, or the little heat sinks and whatnot. I might go for a little active solution if it gets a little bit too hot. But as it stands right now, everything seems to be perfect. The next major thing for me to do is to actually rethink the way this thing connects. Because for right now I'm using magnets, which is nice, but the magnets are putting just too much resistance in there, and it doesn't turn like the way I want. The turning radius is incredible, so I need to modify a caster wheel and actually modify it that way so it actually pivots on the caster wheel. I think I have an idea of how to get it to work, but I've been up since I think 10 p.m. last night, and it's nearly 4 something p.m. now, so I've been up for a while. I'm sleepy. I'm going to finish doing some running around a little bit more, and then I'm going to go to bed. I'm tired.